I still remember the exact second my world cracked. Not with a bang. Not with a warning. Just a sudden, sharp silence as I stared at the phone screen, his smug face smiling in high definition, his voice too casual for what he was doing. So yeah, I'm divorcing Lana today, he said, grinning into the camera as the live chat exploded with emojis and fake sympathy. It's time for a new chapter on my terms. I couldn't breathe. I wasn't even in the same room. He hadn't told me, hadn't looked me in the eye, hadn't even called. He let the world know before he let me know. And somehow, that was the part that hurt the most. My name is Lana. I was 27 when I married Ethan. He was ambitious, poor and charming in a way that felt addictive. I fell for him. Fast, so fast I didn't even see the red flags waving like fireworks behind his eyes. He had dreams. Big ones. And I was the fool who believed I could help him get there. I invested everything into his startup: time, money, energy, love. I designed the website. I networked with suppliers. I stayed up late entering invoices while he talked about changing the world. But somewhere along the way, his idea of changing the world started to mean changing women. When his business blew up, so did his ego. He started getting invitations to influencer events, tech awards, parties hosted by people who had more followers than friends. And then there was her, Melissa. Blonde, glossy, surgically symmetrical. Her laugh sounded like it had been edited with auto-tune. Her Instagram bio read, "Manifesting my dream life." I was still making coffee at AM for his deadlines. She was flying to Dubai for brand collabs. I saw it happening. I felt it slipping. But I still believed he'd come home to me. Until he didn't. The day of the live stream, I was at my sister's apartment staying there temporarily because our condo was being renovated. He told me it was full of dust and wires. Turns out, it was full of Melissa. I stared at the screen as the chat buzzed in real time. OMG, this is savage. Dump her king. She's crying on, isn't she? New era. Who dis? He ended the stream with a wink. Let's celebrate freedom, he said, then wrapped his arm around Melissa's waist and leaned in like it was a wedding photo. I dropped the phone. I don't remember crying. I remember silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. The kind that doesn't leave room for sound or breath or logic. I was suddenly divorced, publicly humiliated, and emotionally bankrupt, all without signing a single paper. 3 days later, I received an envelope. It wasn't even a formal letter. Just a blank white envelope slipped under my door. Inside, a single page of divorce documents, a note written in ballpoint pen. "It's just easier this way. You'll thank me later." No apology. No conversation. Not even a goodbye. I signed it, because what else was I supposed to do? I tried going back to work, but word had already spread. Even the receptionist at the CEO working space looked at me with wide, uncomfortable eyes. "I saw the video," she whispered. I nodded, trying not to crumble. I lasted 5 days before quitting. I had no job, no home, and no husband. Just the lingering echo of his laugh on that live stream, mocking me every time I closed my eyes. I slept on my sister's couch for weeks. Sophia tried to cheer me up, offering wine and RMCOMs and late-night therapy sessions that usually ended with us crying over a tub of ice cream. But I felt numb, disconnected. As if the Lana I used to be had packed her bags and left long before Ethan ever did. I barely recognized the girl in the mirror anymore. Puffy eyes, greasy hair, slouched shoulders. This wasn't heartbreak. This was ruin. And then out of nowhere came Julian. The text was simple. Hey, I heard what happened. I'm sorry. Can we talk? Julian was Ethan's old classmate. Quiet, polite, borderline invisible in a room full of loud entrepreneurs. I barely remembered him from the early days when we all shared ramen noodles and startup dreams, but he had always been kind, soft-spoken, observant. He never flirted, never overstepped, just watched and helped silently. So when he offered coffee, I said yes. I had nothing left to lose. We met at a small CAF tucked in a corner of the city no influencer would be caught dead in. The kind of place that smelled like old books and cinnamon. He was already there, seated by the window. Still quiet, still calm, but there was something different about him now. His presence felt solid, anchored, like he wasn't just in the world, he owned a part of it. You don't owe me anything, he said gently, but I want to help. I stared at him, confused. Why? He sipped his tea. Because I know what it's like to be discarded. His eyes didn't blink when he said it. I didn't ask what he meant. Didn't need to. Pain recognizes pain. And his was buried deep. That day, he gave me more than coffee. He gave me a job, a place to stay, a notebook filled with ideas. You're brilliant, he said simply. Let's build something of your own. I laughed, half joking. Julian, I can't even rebuild myself right now. He leaned forward, gaze steady. Then let's start there. That was the first time I cried in weeks, not from pain, but from the terrifying possibility that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't broken beyond repair. And so began the real story. Not the one that started with marriage vows and liver streams, but the one that started with silence, cinnamon tea, and a billionaire who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Julian didn't ask me to smile. He didn't rush my healing or tell me to move on. Instead, he gave me something far more powerful than advice, a space to breathe. I moved into a modest but warm guest house he owned near the outskirts of the city. It was quiet, tucked between tall trees and distant hills. The kind of place where even the wind sounded gentle. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't filled with staff or luxury, but it felt safe, and for the first time in months, I could sleep without waking up in panic. Days passed slowly. I cooked small meals, mostly toast and tea, took long walks in oversized sweaters, tried to forget the stinging sound of Ethan's voice echoing through liver streams I couldn't unhear. I didn't check social media, not after seeing Melissa's latest post with Ethan. Building our empire together. Thank you for always choosing me. #power couple. No regrets. No, I had none. I had something better, silence. And Julian, one evening, he brought over a laptop and set it gently in front of me. I've been watching your old designs, he said. The ones you made for Ethan's brand. They're good. Really good. Why not make your own? I scoffed, pulling a blanket tighter around me. I'm not a CEO. I was just the helper. Julian smiled, tapping a finger on the table. You weren't the helper. You were the architect. He left the laptop there, didn't pressure, didn't push. But that night, I opened it, clicked through files I hadn't seen in years, sketches of clothing designs, mood boards I'd made on sleepless nights, marketing plans I'd drafted while Ethan snored beside me, and somewhere between sketch number 28 and number 45, something inside me stirred, a flicker, faint, fragile, but alive. In the weeks that followed, I began designing again. Late nights turned into creative storms. Swatches of color and fabric samples filled the little cottage. I burned through notebooks faster than coffee filters. Julian came by often, bringing snacks and quiet encouragement. He never hovered, but always noticed. When I redesigned an old sketch, he'd smile and say, "That one has fire in it." When I doubted myself, he'd simply reply, "Keep going." Eventually, I had an idea, a brand, not a flashy, overdone fashion line with celebrity endorsements. No, mine would be quiet power, clothes made for women like me, rebuilding, reinventing, reclaiming. I named it Ash and Rise because that's what I was doing, rising from the ashes. Julian funded the first prototypes. He didn't ask for a stake or a share. He just said, "Do it right. Make it yours." We rented a small studio, hired a few women who had also been overlooked, underestimated, or tossed aside, divorcees, single moms, women restarting their lives. They became my team, and I became something I never thought I'd be again, driven. Meanwhile, the world kept spinning. Ethan and Melissa launched a gaudy cologne line, Seduced by Ethan. He posed shirtless on billboards. She hosted live streams, teaching confidence and manifestation, but cracks were starting to show. His product got poor reviews. Melissa was caught copying content from another influencer, and his smug smiles on camera began to look more forced. Still, I stayed quiet, focused. Ash and Rise began small, just a few pieces promoted in quiet corners of the internet. But it took off faster than I ever imagined. Women messaged us, saying, "This makes me feel strong again. I wore this to court for my custody hearing. It's like armor for the soul." And every time I read those words, I whispered to myself, "This is why I survived." One rainy evening, as thunder rolled gently in the distance, Julian showed up at my cottage with a strange look on his face. He held out a newspaper, slightly damp. Front page: mystery fashion brand Ash and Rise linked to billionaire Julian Cross. My hands froze. The headline stared back like a threat. "I didn't leak it," he said softly, "but they're starting to connect the dots." I looked at him, calm, composed, steady as ever. "But we haven't done anything wrong," I whispered. Julian nodded. "Still, you're going to be seen now." "Truly seen?" He stepped closer, eyes locked on mine. "You ready for that?" Was I? After hiding in shadows for so long, was I ready to be center stage? To be the woman the world once laughed at and now applauded? To face Ethan again, not as his ex-wife, but as the powerful founder of the brand eclipsing his? I swallowed hard, and then I smiled. Let them look. The next week, we launched the official face reveal for Ash and Rise. No filters, no gimmicks, just me standing in a sleek blazer, hair pulled back, eyes straight to camera. Caption: "Rebirth isn't easy, but it's always worth it." Within hours, it went viral. The woman humiliated on a live stream had returned, and this time, I was holding the camera. I didn't sleep the night the video went live. I watched the views climb like a ticking time bomb. 10,000, 50,000, then 300,000 by morning. Comments flooded in. "Isn't this Ethan's ex-wife? Oh my God, she ate." From livestream divorce to CEO icon, Melissa could never. Ash and Rise is a movement now. She turned pain into purpose. When's the TED Talk, Queen? I should felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt awake. For the first time, I was being seen for me, not as someone's wife or someone's shadow. Me. Lana. Creator. Founder. Survivor. Julian stayed silent through the chaos. He didn't offer commentary or clout chase off the wave. Instead, he texted just one line that morning: "You're leading your own storm now. I'm proud of you." I smiled, then cried, quietly, alone, because even when you win, Healing still hurts. Meanwhile, Ethan reappeared. Of course he did. His messages started small. Hey, saw your launch. Impressive. I ignored them. Then came an email. We should talk. The internet's obsessed with you. Maybe we can collab, even spin it into a redemption story. You've really leveled up. I stared at the screen for a long time. My hand hovered over the delete key, but instead I replied, no, just that .no anger. No essay, no punctuation, just a boundary that sounded like a bullet. But Ethan never liked hearing no. The next week, I saw his interview on a podcast. He leaned back in a leather chair, laughing like it was all a joke. Lana, she's always been smart, just too emotional. I had to let her go so she could shine. Now, I basically created her success. I almost threw my tea across the room. Julian, sitting across from me, just raised an eyebrow. You? Good? He asked, calm as ever. I exhaled through my teeth. Oh, I'm better than good. I wasn't going to clap back. I wasn't going to scream online or post cryptic quotes. No. I had something stronger than petty comebacks, a runway. We moved Yash and Rye's debut show forward. A live event in downtown LA. Women only seating in the front rows. No influencers. No gimmicks. No Ethan. Just raw and filtered fire. The night of the show, I stood backstage in a sleek black dress, watching models glide down the runway, wearing pieces I had designed at my lowest. Every outfit told a story. A structured blazer stitched with scars in the lining. She broke, but she rebuilt. A velvet wrap dress dyed in stormy gray. She grieved, but she glowed. A suit with phoenix embroidery on the back. She burned. She rose. The crowd stood, cheered, cried, and then I walked out. Spotlight. Silence. Power. I took the mic. I was once told I was too emotional to lead, too soft to succeed, too broken to matter. Turns out, emotion is strength, softness is resilience, and brokenness. That was the blueprint. Cheers. Standing ovation. Phones recording. Flashbulbs popping. Somewhere in the back of the crowd, I saw him. Ethan. Jaw tight. Melissa absent. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not because I'd grown taller, but because I'd outgrown him completely. After the event, Julian found me on the rooftop of the venue. The night was quiet. Stars sprinkled like scattered diamonds above the city skyline. He didn't say anything at first, just handed me a glass of champagne. To Lana, he said. The woman who needed no one's permission to rise. I tapped my glass to his, then whispered, and to Julian, the man who never once asked me to shrink. There was a pause, one of those long, charged pauses you feel in your ribs. I've never said this, he murmured, but I loved you before Ethan even noticed you. I turned, stunned. He smiled softly. Back in college, you wore this oversized hoodie and ran every group project. You didn't see me, but I saw you. I swallowed. Why didn't you say anything? He looked away, lips twisting. Because you were happy, or I thought you were. The silence stretched. Then I whispered, what about now? He met my gaze. I still do. And there on a rooftop, bathed in moonlight, with my past dissolving behind me, and my future standing in front of me, I leaned in. We kissed. Not like a movie, not like a rebound, but like a beginning. From that moment on, I stopped surviving and started living. After the kiss, things didn't magically turn into a fairy tale. There were no violin swells, no dramatic fireworks. Just a warm silence, the kind that wraps around Your soul like a favorite sweater. Julian didn't rush anything. Didn't try to define us or label the moment. He just kept showing up: morning coffees, late night brainstorms, quiet support during long meetings, and I let him. Because for once, I wasn't afraid of being loved. Slowly, Ash and Rise kept climbing. Celebrities wore it without being paid to. Women tagged us with captions like, "This dress gave me courage in court." "Wore this blazer to my first job interview since the divorce." It's more than fashion. It's armor. Our stock sold out within hours. Investors began calling, offering ridiculous sums of money, but I didn't sell. Not yet. Because this wasn't just business to me. This was the comeback of my soul, and I wasn't about to hand it off for a check. Then came the email. Subject: "We need to talk. Urgent." From Ethan. I almost laughed. His timing was perfect right as Ash and Rise was featured on the cover of a major fashion magazine, right as rumors about Julian and me began swirling in the press. I didn't want to open it, but curiosity, like a moth to a flame, got the better of me. Lana. I messed up. Melissa's gone. She took the money and left. My company's under investigation for fraud. My CFO turned on me. I don't know who else to turn to. Can we talk? Please. Just once. Ethan. I stared at the screen for a long time, not because I missed him, but because I didn't. Not even a little. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the message to my lawyer. Keep an eye on him, I said. He's spiraling. And Ethan did spiral. He started popping up in interviews again, painting himself as a betrayed visionary. She left when I needed her most, he said in one video. She used me to build her brand, used him. I almost choked on my tea. Then came the final blow. He published a tell-all video on his channel, a desperate 20-minute monologue titled "The Truth About Lana," the woman behind Ash and Rise. In it, he twisted everything. He claimed I abandoned him when success got hard, that I manipulated Julian into backing me, that Ash and Rise was just revenge dressed up in fabric. It was pathetic, but it went viral, because drama always does. For a few hours, my inbox exploded. Some people believed him. Others defended me, creating duets and response videos with fire in their eyes. Still, the noise was overwhelming. Julian saw me pacing on the balcony that night. He wrapped a blanket around my shoulders and said softly, "You don't need to fight this in public." I looked at him. "But he's lying." "Again." "I know," he said. "But you're not who you were when he last hurt you." He placed a hand on my heart. "You're louder in silence now." So, I stayed silent. In Oliver stream. No rebuttal. No tea. Instead, I posted one photo on our official Ash and Rise account. Just me, standing in front of a cracked mirror wearing our best-selling blazer. No filter. Hair tied back. No makeup. Just raw, unbothered power. Caption: "He told the world I was fragile. I became unbreakable." It shattered the internet. But Ethan? He shattered for real. A week later, he was arrested on charges of fraud, tax evasion, and misappropriation of investor funds. Turns out, his perfect empire was built on sand. Melissa sold her story to a tabloid. Ethan's company went bankrupt, and the man who once live-streamed our divorce was now reduced to a headline. Disgraced tech CEO Ethan Harris faces jail time. I didn't celebrate, because I didn't need to. His downfall wasn't my victory. My life was. A few months later, I received a handwritten letter from prison. From Ethan. I opened it slowly, scanning the shaky handwriting. I'm sorry. I mean that now. I see it all differently here. You didn't deserve it. Any of it. I hope you're happy. Truly. E. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer I never opened again. Because forgiveness isn't about making someone feel better. It's about freeing yourself. Julian never asked what the letter said. He just held me when I looked tired. Ran me hot baths. Rubbed the tension out of my shoulders. Told me I didn't have to be strong all the time. That was the difference between them. Ethan wanted me as a trophy. Julian wanted me as me. One night, as we sat in our quiet rooftop garden, sipping red wine under string lights, he looked at me differently. Lana, he said slowly, I've never met anyone like you. I smirked. That's because you were busy watching me from afar in college, remember? He chuckled. Fair. Then he reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a small velvet box, opened it. A simple ring. No diamonds, no shine, just truth. I don't want to own you, he whispered. I just want to walk beside you. Forever. If you'll let me. I didn't cry. I didn't gasp. I just smiled peacefully. Like the storm had finally passed. Yes, I said. 1,000 times yes. We married quietly. An lavish ceremony. No press. Just a weekend in the French countryside with a handful of friends, fresh lavender in my hands, and Julian's eyes locked on mine as we promised forever. It was simple, elegant. Ours. Julian wore a navy suit. No tie. Just that calm, comforting smile. I wore a silk dress I designed myself, stitched with gold thread on the inside seam. A secret message only I could see. She rose. She stayed risen. Back in the city, life moved beautifully. Ash and Rise was thriving. We opened a flagship store in Soho. Women traveled from all over just to walk into the space and feel powerful. We hosted workshops for women starting over. We launched a capsule collection called Resilient, and best of all, I felt peace. Not just professionally, but inside my own skin. For the first time since I could remember, I wasn't rebuilding. I was living. One rainy evening, Julian came home with his hands behind his back and a mischievous grin. Guess what? He teased. I was curled on the couch in fuzzy socks, halfway through our OMCOM. Let me guess, I played along. You bought another company. He shook his head. Adopted another rescue dog. Nope. Then what? He pulled out a tiny white box. I frowned. Julian, we're already married. What is this? He sat beside me, handing it over gently. Inside was a pregnancy test. Positive. My world tilted. I stared at the little screen, unblinking. I didn't even realize, I whispered. Julian nodded. I kind of did. You've been extra tired and craving orange juice at 2 a.m. I laughed. Then cried. Then laughed while crying. A baby. A life that wasn't defined by pain or revenge or loss. A future. The months passed in a blur of doctor visits, belly rubs, and nursery decorating. Julian read every baby book ever written. I designed a small maternity line called Mother, rewritten. My followers didn't know yet. We wanted to keep it quiet. Just us. But joy has a way of glowing even in silence. And then came her. One afternoon, a woman showed up at our office. Mid-30s. Sharp bob. Nervous eyes. She asked to speak with me privately. I agreed. Curious, she sat down across from me, fidgeting. My name is Cassandra. I used to work with Ethan. Before things got bad. I stiffened. She continued. I was his assistant. I helped him hide things. Emails. Bank statements. Names. I narrowed my eyes. Why are you telling me this now? She took a shaky breath. Because I just found out. He forged your name on a funding document before your divorce. I blinked. What? She pulled out a copy. There it was. My signature. Only. It wasn't mine. If the authorities knew, you'd be cleared of any connection to his fraud. My hands trembled. All this time, I'd carried a secret fear that if his investigation ever deepened, I'd be dragged into it too. He had covered his tracks with my name. But now, I had proof. I sat with the truth for days. Julian offered to call lawyers. I declined. I need to decide what this is to me, I said softly. Justice, or just closure. In the end, I handed the document over to my attorney with no public statement. No scandal. No headlines, just peace, because the version of me who needed the world to see Ethan fall, she no longer existed. The version of me now. She was building cribs and humming lullabies and growing life inside her body while love bloomed around her. Our daughter, Lyra, was born on a rainy Sunday morning. She had Julian's quiet eyes and my stubborn chin. I held her in my arms, exhausted and glowing, and whispered, "You're never going to have to recover from a love story like I did." Julian kissed my forehead, and in that moment, with the world outside softened by storm clouds and the air filled with newborn cries and wild hope, I finally understood. Everything had led me here, not to revenge, not to applause, not even to redemption, but to belonging. If you had told the girl watching her husband announce their divorce to the world that she'd one day build an empire, marry the man who truly saw her, and hold her child in a sunlit room filled with peace, she would have laughed. But here's the truth: pain is not the end. It's just the part where you find out who you really are, and if you're lucky, who you were always meant to become. Thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, comment your thought, and share with your nearest and dearest one. See you in the next one. Stay happy. Goodbye.